Hey everybody, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop with my second of 3 end of the year lists. This time I'm talking about something I haven't done in the past, which is the top 20 games that are new to me, but did not come out in 2022. In past years, I've kind of combined things together and just done like the top 20 games that I covered on the channel in general. But this year I covered like 90 games between crowdfunding and new games and older games. So I decided I could split the list up and have things be a little bit more pure, I guess. And if you like the content on the One Stop Co-op Shop, consider supporting us through Patreon. You get early access to our videos and exclusive videos. This month I'm talking about my least favorite games of the year. You can also check out our separate streaming channel with even more great content, listen to our podcast with weekly episodes, or come join the conversation on our Discord and let me know which games from before 2022 are your favorites. But enough of that, let's get to the list. So starting off at number 20, we have Down in Flames Locked On. This is a competitive and solo game of dog fighting air combat that's controlled with cards. And this one's a good bit of fun. There's a nice variety in the ships you have and the different missiles you can bring. The card play is fast and furious, and you can die at a moment's notice. And the solo is okay. It involves a lot of rolling on tables with D10s, so it works, but it's a little bit cumbersome sometimes. So not a favorite game of the year. It's a little too goofy and silly for me. But if you want a really fast-paced dog fighting without having to actually track miniatures moving around on a board like X-Wing or whatever, this one might float your boat. Then at spot 19, I've got Castles of Dawnstone. This is a self-published game that's a mix of deck building and worker placement. Again, it's a competitive 1v1 game, but with a solo mode. And the deck building is pretty good. There's some combos, like nothing amazing, nothing engine buildy in here. But the worker placement aspect is really neat. You're kind of like leveling up these buildings on the board that give you access to different things. Again, not a ton of variety. I wish there were different buildings. And then the solo mode actually does have some variety. You can go against different AI that sort of prioritize or level up in different ways. It's very quick to run. So yeah, again, nothing earth-shatteringly beautiful and new in terms of deck building or worker placement, but it's a cool combination of the two and works pretty well. It's Castles of Dawnstone at number 19. And then sticking with the deck builders at number 18, I have Valiant Wars. This one is a competitive-only deck builder, but I did make a solo variant myself that I think works really well. And this is basically a push your luck game. You're trying to go as long as you can to build up money to buy better cards, and also to get swords to conquer these locations, which then become both victory points in your deck, but also negative cards you have to deal with, sort of a Dominion style. And the combos are cool here. The choices are tough. The big thing, though, and the reason this is just number 18 for me, is that it is super swingy, as many push your luck games can be. You get really big runaway leader problems. There's not much you can do about it. Your combos kind of come out randomly. It's still good, silly fun, kind of in a similar vein to something like Quacks of Quedlinburg, but it's also going to frustrate people, and it certainly frustrated me from time to time with my solo variant and in competitive play. So yeah, that's Valiant Wars, number 18. Then at number 17, I've got Fog of Love. This is a sort of cooperative, sort of potentially competitive game where you and another player are in a theoretical relationship together, and you're playing these scene cards and making choices that are kind of affecting your happiness and your personality. And this is vaguely a game. You can just kind of consider it more of a role-playing experience. And again, you don't have to play it cooperatively. You could be kind of nasty and lie to each other and stuff. But my wife and I played it pretty much as a purely co-op game, and there are purely co-op scenarios. And with that, and with kind of the role-playing fun of the narrative, we had a blast. I don't think it's going to appeal to a lot of people, but at least for us, it was a ton of fun. So that is Fog of Love at number 17. Then at number 16 is one I just covered about a week ago. This is Hadrian's Wall, a solo or competitive flip and right, although it's really more like a mid to heavyweight Euro despite the flip and right nature. And as I said in my recent review, the combo nature of the game is really great. You can really go into some crazy turns where you accomplish a ton of stuff, but at least for me, the lack of variety game to game and play to play, despite the pretty good solo campaign, was enough to keep it a little bit low on my list, but it's still my number 16 new to me game of 2022. And coming in at number 15, we have Skulls of Sedlec. This is a 2 or 3 player competitive game that then becomes a solo game with the Monstrance expansion. And basically, you're building cards from these little selection piles into different shapes, trying to put them together in specific ways to earn victory points. And it's a simple game. It's very fast playing, but it's consistently engaging. It's very fun. And the solo play works great because you build these different shapes and combinations, and then you have different rules to apply. So the variety is actually very good. I enjoy the 2 and 3 player competitive as well, although I do think 2 player works better. 3 player, the cards are spread a bit too thin, so luck of the draw becomes a lot more prevalent. But yeah, this is a solid one if you like a quick playing solo or competitive card game. Again, Skulls of Sedlec at number 15. Then at number 14, and I imagine I might get some angry comments for not putting this higher, is Nemo's War, the solo only, or I guess they do have cooperative, but I would never play it, the solo game of adventure in the world of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. You can do a bunch of different types of motives, which change up the game somewhat, and you go against these ships, you're trying to sink them, you're trying to have like little adventures. They have these cool skill test options that have consistent mitigation options, but you can really get messed up if you commit too much. So it's definitely a cool game. I did find it a little bit repetitive. I didn't love like how you always had to sink ships as like a major aspect of the game. I wish there was a bit more variety in like how you kind of carried out your goals. But again, I'm in the minority. This is like a top solo game for so many people. But for me, it was just my number 14. And then at number 13 is Fire in the Lake, the coin game. I guess this is where, in the middle of the list, all the bigger, like, war game-ish kind of games fell. So I've covered several coin counterinsurgency games on the channel. This one is focused on the Vietnam War. And I played it with the Trong, I think it's pronounced, new Automa, that kind of makes it a bit more like a new player and has more variety. I thought that worked really well, and I like it a lot. I don't know if it's quite my number one coin, but it's close. But coin games are tough to get to the table, so other things are a little bit easier to play, beat them out generally. But still, I fully respect the design. I think this one is great. I think the new Automa is great. And I have pledged the upcoming sci-fi one. What is it called? Like Red Dust Rebellion or something like that. No idea when it's actually going to ship, but I'm very excited for that one because I want to see coin kind of stretch its legs into a non-historical genre, and I'm all about sci-fi. But back to Fire in the Lake, a really great game if you can handle the intensity of running the solo Automa, which can get pretty heady, then you might enjoy this one. This is my number 13. Then number 12, I've got a classic, Small World. I did cover this on the channel because they released an official solo mode. I will say that's very basic. I would not recommend the game with that mode, except to like kind of try it out and play around with different combinations. But Small World as a whole is a competitive game that I've loved for a long time. My wife really enjoys. My sons got into. It's very easy to play, but if you can get some expansions and have like crazy combinations of abilities and then see how they kind of play out, but you know, the gameplay always stays streamlined and quick. It's just a lot of fun and very easy to get to the table, sort of the exact opposite of something like Fire in the Lake, which, you know, I might play like once a year. Certainly, I think Fire in the Lake's design is maybe more impressive, but Small World is just easier to play. So it is my number 12. Again, focusing on competitive play. The solo mode is just kind of meh. And then number 11, just outside the top 10, this is one that I was really kind of surprised by because video game adaptations in board games often aren't very good. This is Resident Evil 3, and I'm a huge Resident Evil fan, and I didn't know what to expect for this one, but it was pretty awesome. They got like the tension of running through the hallways, discovering zombies, running away from people because you're running out of ammo. The campaign works great because you like have to really shepherd your resources and carefully conserve like your big weapons and stuff. You know, it doesn't have that much character variety. The scenarios aren't always as like well designed as I would like. There are some rough spots here. The components are kind of a bit meh, but in terms of like that Resident Evil feel, in terms of really tense, like quick tactical combat, a few things are as good as Resident Evil 3, my number 11. And bringing us into the top 10 is one that really surprised me with how much it kind of grabbed me and my main gaming group and would not let go. This is The Initiative, which is a code-breaking game, but it's also broken up with these like sections where you are reading a comic book and like making little like character choices and discovering things about the characters. But the main thing is the code breaking. You're moving around with these action cards. You're trying to uncover this evidence, and that will allow you to eventually try to figure out what the key phrase is and break the code. And yeah, it's not like necessarily amazing, and we did find it a little bit too easy. But for some reason, the combination of like the comic book and sort of the discovery and mystery of that, and the very quick gameplay in the code breaking, and you know, code breaking itself just being kind of fun, even if it wasn't always challenging, was a winning combination. We played through the whole dang campaign very quickly, and there's actually a lot of bonus content after you beat the campaign, so it's not just kind of a one and done. So yeah, The Initiative, a great game, really impressed me at my number 10 spot. And then at number 9, I've got Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid. This is an interesting one in that when I originally played this game, I didn't really love it. Sometimes sometimes I was like left out of combats and stuff, and that can still happen. The game definitely has some downtime issues, especially at higher player counts. The difficulty can use some variants. There are like some official ones because sometimes you can just lose suddenly in an unsatisfying way. But if you strip that away, and especially if you play like solo or lower player counts where you're always involved, the combat system for this game, the combo card play, the tense dice rolling, the enemy like activation abilities and trying to manage them, it's really excellent. Really great tactical card play in general. One of the better systems I've seen for that. So I'm not going to recommend it for everyone. It is kind of overpriced for what you get because the miniatures are gigantic. And if you don't like miniatures and aren't really doing much in the game, then it's not going to be a selling point for you. And it makes the expansions tough to pick up. But again, the card play, tough to beat, which brings Power Rangers Heroes of the Grid to my number 9 spot. And then coming in at number 8, I have the competitive brawler game, card-based kind of board battling tactical game, which is Super Fantasy Brawl. And this is another one that is on the list only because I designed a solo variant for it, one that I think works really well. And yeah, this is a awesome game if you like a tactical, like head-to-head combat. Now, it's another one that's gigantic and has huge minis and is really expensive, which might be a plus or minus for you. But the uniqueness of the different heroes, now you can combine them on your team, the different abilities they have, it's all really cool, really fun if you like tactical combat like I do. And interestingly enough, I just heard on our Discord recently that Mythic Games has, I think, sold the rights for this one to CMON, if I remember correctly, which is great because, Mythic has so many games they're trying to get out right now. And CMON, of course, is pretty consistent. So I hope CMON doesn't just sit on it. I hope they do bring out other stuff because I think this is a great design and I want to see it living longer. This is my number 8, Super Fantasy Brawl. Then on my number 7, I just covered this one, and that's actually because I wanted to get it on this list. I've been playing it a lot for a while, though, so it's not like I don't have confidence in my numbering here. This is Mind Management. It is a competitive or solo or cooperative hidden movement game, which is pretty unique. And basically, when you play solo co-op, it's with an app controlling the hidden movement side of things, and you're controlling the side trying to track them down. Now, I'll have my full review probably early next year, but just give you a preview, I think this game is awesome. I think the app, can be like slightly annoying to deal with, to like click where everybody's going. I think sometimes the game can be a little bit too much, and sometimes my brain hurts, but it is a brilliant hidden movement game, and the solo co-op works so dang well, better than I thought anyone could ever achieve with this type of a game, and I just really like those types of games in general, and this is one of the best I've played. So yeah, Mind Management, even though it's pretty new to me, already at my number 7 spot for this year. Then coming in at number 6, I have Rove, another button-shy game, and this one is so good, everybody. I love Bullet, one of my highest recommendations for solo co-op play, and if you like Bullet, you're going to love Rove because it is, again, a really tense and interesting spatial kind of management and awareness game. You're just moving around these cards with limited actions, trying to match these little mission card placements of cards, like these little shapes on the left. And that's it. But that's all you need. I like keep this one next to my bed. I'll play it at night. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes. It's incredibly tactically interesting. It's whimsically beautiful in its theme with like the little pictures of the rover going around its missions. I can't recommend this one enough. Even though it's only my number 6, I absolutely adore it and it's cheap. Just go pick it up if you like solo play at all. Rove is a real winner. Now, getting to the big numbers, the top 5. First, we have Radlands, another competitive 1v1 game that has a solo variant that I designed, unofficial. And this is one of my most well-received solo variants. I think it works great as well. Really happy that it came together so well. And yeah, you might ask why am I putting so many of my own solo variants on the list, and that's because I designed solo variants for games I like or love. So Radlands is so fast to play, but has so much variety in the bases and like the cards that come out. And I think they're going to do an expansion, so I'll definitely be in for that one. It's got like this interesting interplay between committing to events or like trying to attack a lot or trying to load your base with tons of people. Each game plays out different. It's furious, it's intriguing, and it's like so cheap and so quick to play and easy to teach. I taught my kids how to play it too. So it's really, really a great game. If you like 1v1 card play or if you like my solo variant, I think you'll have a blast with Radlands, my number 5. And then party games don't often get this high on my list, but my number 4 is one, So Clover. This is where each player has a little clover like this. You have a random combination of word pairs, and then you write down with Sharpie or dry erase, whatever it is, on the side, words that are supposed to give clues as to these pairs. And that's the entire game, and then the other players try to guess what like the original combinations were. It is so fun. It's so accessible. I brought it to like family gatherings. I brought it to like play rehearsals. I brought it everywhere, and I'll continue to bring it everywhere, and everyone has a good time. It's one of the most excellent, fun little cooperative deduction games I've played. So Clover, my number 4. And then with kind of a 1-2 deductive cooperative punch, at number 3, I have Letter Jam, which I like just slightly more than So Clover. This is a cooperative game where players are giving each other words, and they can see each other's letters, but the players can't see the letters in front of themselves, sort of Hanabi style. And they're trying to give each other clues so they can figure out what each other's words are. And then, like, at the end, you, like, guess your word and put it together. I don't know. It's a little bit harder to teach than So Clover. It's a little bit less accessible than So Clover, but I just think it is, like, the best word game, for my taste at least, that I have ever played. I adore it. And again, I have brought it to like family gatherings and game nights and all kind of things, and I have never failed to have a blast with it. CGE, Check Game Edition, it's hard for them to do wrong by me. But that is Letter Jam, my number 3. And then a big one at my number 2, this is Unsettled. Whoo, do I love this game. And by the way, this was just barely not a 2022. I think it delivered like November of 2021. I don't know. But yeah, so if you haven't seen this one, Colin's done a bunch of playthroughs on the channel, including you saw Colin's hand there right now. This is a cooperative planet exploration game with very funny narrative writing, although it is not a narrative game. It is very much like a puzzly kind of tactical movement, action manipulation game. But each of these planets has beautiful different components and completely different like scenarios to try out and like really cool things to explore. They each have their own feel. And yeah, I adored this one so much that I went all in on the new Kickstarter for even more content. So I want to play more Unsettled for a while. It is interesting to compare this to ISS Vanguard, which might show up on my top of 2022 list next week. But this one also has planet exploration, but whereas ISS Vanguard leans very much into the narrative campaign aspect, this one is amazing for tactical, puzzly, one-off play. I just adore it. And yeah, strongly recommend it to anyone who, sort of likes to explore a planet and see if they can not die. That sounds fun, right? So this is Unsettled, my number 2. So then what's my number 1? Whoa! Is this even allowed, Mike? Sentinels of the Multiverse Definitive Edition. Yeah, this, is kind of a game I've covered in the past, but there's a new edition of it and they changed a lot of stuff. I don't know, whatever. It's my video, my rules. But I enjoyed Sentinels of the Multiverse a lot. It was a top game for me for a while, and then I kind of like overplayed it and got annoyed by some of the awkwardness of some of the heroes and some of the like locations and some of the villains. But then I played the Definitive Edition, and man, they like smoothed away almost all of the unfun parts of the game, added so much more value, added so much more variety right out of the box, and I just adore this game now. It is so much fun to play every single hero. I went in on the Rook City expansion. Can't wait for that to deliver so I get even more content to play around with. So yeah, this is a weird one because, like, again, I've sort of covered it before and there's a new edition, but the new edition came out in 2022, so should it even be on this list? I don't know. But it's my number 1 game that was published before 2022, but that I covered this year on the channel. So Sentinels, number 1. All right, so 20 games new to me or new to the channel, but not from 2022. Next week, I'll have my biggest list of all, my top 20 games that were released this year. So check that out when it comes around. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.